is going to be monitoring your questions on YouTube and has helpfully prepared the stream for today, and Deborah, our program director. And we're also joined by our speaker today, Melanie Mecca. We are very excited to have you here, Melanie. Although before we get started, I do have some housekeeping to get out of the way. So first, I'd just like to mention that we are looking to fill some positions on the IRMAC board. We're specifically looking for new program directors and directors of online content. So we are sadly going to be missing Nick and Deborah at a point in the future, but we really value the contributions that you've made to IRMAC, and I will prepare a more heartfelt speech for closer to your actual send-off so we don't get bogged down in deep emotion. And expect an announcement about that shortly. Then before we get started, I also have to thank our sponsor, InfoSet, who helps us bring these speaker events to you and helps provide the technology that we use to do so. So now, without further ado, I'm going to briefly introduce Melanie Mecca, who is going to talk today about building a data quality program from the ground up. So I asked Melanie to talk about data quality because an organization's data quality activities are frequently left to individuals who approach these quality improvements, ad hoc. But we really need, there really is a strong need to have a more organized program, and that's something Melanie and I talked about a bit, in which I'm very excited to hear more about. Melanie, I also think the perfect person to talk about this as the CEO of DataWise, and a leading authority on enterprise data management assessments, the data management maturity SM model, benchmarking, and strategic roadmap. She has great expertise in evaluating, designing, and implementing data management programs, and has empowered many clients in all industries to accelerate their success. She has many accreditations and is very, very capable in this, and also offers a lot of courses about this subject and many other subjects, which Melanie, you're also going to tell us about. So without further ado, I'm going to hand it over to you to tell us all about building a data quality program.
Okay, thank you. Let me see. All right, there we go. So this is a companion approach to my other side of the fence, which is how to develop a data quality strategy. So that's the top-down approach to improving data quality in an organization. And this one is a bottom-up approach. It's almost a stealth approach, if you like. So I'm going to look at it from the conceptual point of view for a few minutes and talking about what top-down means. And then we're going to talk about factors that may prevent you from starting top-down, or that may make it just a better idea to start small and work your way up. It is from the program perspective, because I've spent a long time working on data management programs and evaluating them and writing roadmaps for them. So, but the guts of it is going to be a program management step-by-step kind of project approach. So you'll get a lot of detail as well, and hopefully a lot of thought-provoking questions. Now, if I can page down a little bit more about me, I spent a lot of time working on reference models and developing certification training against particularly the data management maturity model for ISACA CMMI Institute. I've done other reference models for patient data quality and provider data quality, and data management evaluating tool for analytics and data consumption. And I'm now working on a computer-based training suite. I'm about to do my 4th course, which is going to be called Building the Data Quality Program. So you're getting a sneak peek of the e-learning. I've led a lot of assessments, and I put this particular approach into practice several times. So I'm looking forward to talking to you about this. So what we want to do is, as Eden said, most approaches to data quality are very ad hoc. So you can say everybody talks about data quality, but nobody does anything about it. And then if you say that in an organization, people will complain. Yes, we do. Project A does data quality work. Project B does it. Project C does it, and so on and so forth. but that never allows you to gain effectiveness and efficiency across the organization. So we're going to talk about those problems as well. So we're going to first talk about the top-down approach to build a data quality program for the enterprise or the whole organization. And then we're going to switch it over to the bottom-up, how you get ready to do this project, how you consider the project in the light of what you're intending, which is to eventually move beyond one pilot project. What are the steps? What are the work products? How to create the data quality workbook that allows you to reuse this, a summary of what you learn through it, a summary of the value that you get, and how you then use it, SPI versus SPI, to build the case for a bigger quality program. All right. So in the data management program, in an organization-wide data management program, you can take all of the disciplines and knowledge areas in the DMM and the DIMBOK and other reference models, and you can abstract them up to 3 primary pillars. So one is data architecture, what you buy, conceive of, and build to capture, store, and deliver your data. And also decisions about how you're going to organize the data, share the data, and provision the data. So that's architecture in a nutshell. Data governance, of course, is essentially how you define the data, how you make mutually collaborative decisions about the data, how you control the data, and who within the organization has what roles with respect to the data assets. Now, all of that is in the support of what the business really wants, which is data, the right data at the right time, in the right condition, also known as data quality. So data quality has many aspects to it. It's how you discover and evaluate the condition of the data as it is now, how you define the characteristics of the data condition so that you can start to improve it. We call those dimensions. How you apply those dimensions to create quality rules so you can prevent bad data wherever the data is stored. How you're going to prioritize the plan improvements, like what's the business impact of fixing XYZ? What is the technical impact of fixing XYZ? And how you ensure that the data stays good. You need attention to data quality for better business decisions, for analytics, for AI, for machine learning, and all the spiffy things that you want to bring to your organization. Now, I'm going to start with the DMM because when we were developing it, we spent a long time coming up with these 4 process areas that in the abstract contain a holistic approach to data quality in the organization. So I'm going to use this terminology with which I'm very familiar, and you'll recognize all of this from whatever aspect of data management you come from. So first you have, these are kind of in roughly sequential order, but what I tell people is you can implement any one of these data process areas and gain benefits and improvements from them. So logically speaking, you start with the strategy. So these are practices that help the organization create a defined, approved, and integrated plan to ensure that the data meets your business needs. So you end up with these domains are my top priority. I'm going to tackle them in this sequence. And it ends up saying who's going to be involved, what data quality disciplines am I going to implement, what tool sets am I going to get to help me. All of that and more is contained in the data quality strategy. Then we go to the other side, which is data profiling. I'm going to use this process area to discover in the physical data, what is the content, what is the overall quality in terms of the condition of the data, and what rules pertain to a data set under management. This can be a large data set, like a data set encompassing an entire domain, such as product, or it can be a small data set, like 25 attributes in the customer master data hub. You're looking for defects that you know are wrong, and also anomalies, things in the data or not in the data that don't make sense to you and probably are errors, but could be just the fact that people did not document a change to the data set. So you don't know what you don't know is the key word of data profiling. And then the next area is data quality assessment. So this is on the business side. This is practices that help the business, the SMEs, the data experts in the business lines make a determination about the quality they want, basically. Is this data fit for purpose? How bad can the data be? How many defects? Like, let's say, how many duplicate patient records can I have and still do my job? What is my target for the data? What is the desired, realistic perfection of this data? What does that look like? It also includes monitoring data sets over time to see improvements, and also rules, data quality dimensions. From the dimensions, you develop rules. So developing rules. And this has a big emphasis on governance, on the business needs. And then there's data cleansing, which is done everywhere, but it's done in a very inefficient manner, or it might be quite efficient within the scope of a small project. But these are practices to establish the mechanisms, processes, and methods for validating and correcting the data according to those rules, and also analyzing the source of anomalies and defects, which we call root cause analysis. So if you put all those things together with all of the detailed practices that make them up, you have a holistic approach. So the logical order is you would, in a perfect world, you would start top down, you would do a strategy, because you would know if you were the chief data officer or equivalent, that all of your business customers wanted great data and that they agreed that they should spend money and time coming up with a great program to improve quality. So in a perfect world, you would start with this and you would do a plan for the whole organization. And then you would say, okay, let's find out how bad it is. And that would be the data profiling step. And then you would say, well, this is what it looks like now, but now we turn to you, the business, to see what is the condition you need, what expectations do you have, and what improvements are most important to you about the condition of the data. Then you fix it, right? Here are the root causes, these are the sources. And another thing about data cleansing that I'd like to emphasize, because it's come up a lot in my recent assessments, we know that business problems are often caused by data issues. And we know that vice versa, data problems cause business problems. So there's a very strong relationship between those two. And part of data cleansing is looking at business processes that you may wish to improve or change to get the better data in the first place. All right. So if you had a full organizational commitment, you would set out to do these things. Now, why can't you do this? All right, there's a lot of organizations that really, really want to have an organization-wide data quality strategy, and they haven't been able to sell it internally. They have obstacles that prevent that. So if you don't have a data management strategy, which is the rationale and the pieces and the sequence plan for your overall data management program, then it's hard to do a quality strategy because it fits under that umbrella of the entire program. If you don't have any executive governance council or the equivalent, you don't have data domain stewards or senior data stewards, it's hard to get the different business lines together to agree on a top-down approach, and especially to agree on prioritization of various domains or major systems or repositories. And then also, you may not have a good luck with your business case. Maybe you think it costs too much. They don't like it. They don't like it. It seems pie in the sky. So it's sometimes hard to get just the perfect business case to do this top down. And of course, if you don't have an executive champion, that's another obstacle. You may not have enough money in this fiscal year. You may not have enough people who you could apply to coordinating this and working with the governance groups to get their input. And of course, we all are busy. You might have just too many other priorities. So the data quality strategy can simply be out of reach. Now we can surmount all of these problems by approaching it from a different angle. So we're going to bootstrap our way. We're going to do a more subtle approach, and we're going to do it from a humble beginning, a small data set. We're going to do a pilot project. So on the right, you see perfect data. That is Shangri-La, perfect data condition. But what we're going to count on is we're going to incrementally, step by step, build a data quality program starting from a very small data set. So the benefit of taking this approach is that you deepen your understanding of the key data set. And as a corollary to that, your governance participants deepen their understanding of the data set. So that now you have a path for how to deepen your understanding of a data set through data quality practices. So that's like an ancillary benefit to taking a pilot project. And then you will definitely discover defects and anomalies that you'll have to research. So what you didn't know, you're now going to know or have the path to know. You will also be engaging the data management organization or function in your organization. Why? Because the data management function is the function that is responsible for persistent data management products like policies, processes, and standards. And typically those are full-time people. And your organization may have lots of them. Like Wells Fargo at one point had 800 people reporting to data management and insights. Could be huge, or it could be 1 or 2 people, depending on the size of your organization and the importance that you give to data management. But anyway, it proves the value of that kind of central function to take these results and turn them into something that's reusable. It definitely engages the data stewards in a collaborative and positive experience, gives them plenty to analyze and think about. And you'll see that when we get into all the questions that they need to answer. And of course, you're going to get a tangible benefit. You're going to improve this data set for the sponsor and any consumers of the data. And it also allows you to do other things you'd like to do. For example, one of the things you should do is decide what is the tool set you're going to use for this pilot. Do you have a standard data quality tool set or tool sets? So if you do have one or more than one, you're going to use that or one of them. If you don't, it gives you an opportunity to come up with features that you want in a data quality tool set. This results because you're going to achieve something for your business sponsor and data consumers. It's going to help you substantiate additional funding for data quality efforts, even if it's incremental. It will demonstrate the need for a data quality skilled staff in the organization, other than just developer Joe, developer Mary, over here in project 1, 2, 3, etc. So somebody or some people who really specialize in data quality and can help the organization advance. It helps you develop standard reusable work products, and we'll talk a lot more about that. And it is, of course, the foundation to build the argument for an organization-wide data quality strategy. So this is the incremental approach. All right. You start at the bottom, tiny little set. So the essential elements are, you're going to scope and plan a pilot project. You can call it a quality audit of a data set if you prefer. You're going to decompose that project into discrete activity steps. However, at each activity step, you're not just going to concentrate on that data set or that business sponsor or that set of customers. You're going to be thinking organization-wide while you do this discrete pilot project. You're going to ask yourself key questions in each step, and I'll go through those. You're going to create mini work products at each step. And at the end, you're going to consolidate those work products into a data quality workbook. And it will be for your project. But then a data management staff person can take that and abstract it into a template for everyone. So you're going to get a lot of value out of this project. And remember why we're taking this incremental approach. We're going to get something done You can't stop us. You wouldn't let us do the strategy, but we're going to do this. You're going to be able to convince executives of the value of this approach and the results. You're going to be able to develop sound practices. You're going to write one time and use many times. And you will educate a coterie of capable and motivated data stewards. They're going to have fun doing this. Fun in terms of analytical fun, what we like to do in our profession, right? Use our brains. And you will be able to create effective processes and work products and gain efficiency. And this is the beginning. If you take this bottom-up approach, it is the beginning for evolving the elusive quality culture where everybody knows, everybody cares, and everybody does. Okay, how do we scope it? So there's a picture of concentric circles around London. So you want to select a target data domain that is highly shared, ideally. And this could be master data or another small data set of highly shared data. For example, at the two conservatorships in the US, Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac, an example would be single family loan data that all of their business lines are using. So you want something highly shared that has a lot of consumers, and master reference data is perfect, or the smallest, most critical data elements in other shared data. For example, for Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac, it might be loan quality or loan to value ratio, by region, or some set of data elements that gets them excited, that they really want to know about it, they really want it to be accurate. Needs to be important, one or more stakeholders. You're going to narrow it down to a small data set. It's best to keep the number of attributes small, like 20 to 50 attributes if possible. And if you're going to look at a very small data set across a number of data stores where you're going to have to combine snapshots, then you want limited joins, because it gets more and more complicated the more joins you do. So you want to keep it simple. You want to make sure this data set is used by multiple business consumers. And then if it happens to be that there are already persistent quality issues with this data set, then it makes it better for you. It's sweeter because there's a higher chance of running into potential improvements, which in turn demonstrate more value, right? So you're going to obtain approval, and you want a friendly business sponsor, maybe the producer or a producer of this data set, that says, yeah, we have problems. I really want you to do this. Thank you for doing this for me. So you're going to get an eager customer to come up with the data set. You're going to outline to that person what are the immediate tangible benefits and some of the longer term benefits that that person will be supporting. You want to have a reasonable budget. You can actually do this fairly quickly. If you pick the right data set and you have a tool available, you can get most of this done in a reasonable time frame. We'll talk more about time frame. You want to make sure that you plan it well, because you want this to be a success. You want it crisp. You want it clean. You want it, full of energy. You want a good schedule, and you want a small team. Talk about who's on the team in a moment. So you pitch it as a proof of concept that nonetheless delivers tangible benefits. All right. I know I can switch slides. So who should be on this team? Well, we have a leader of the team. And I'm assuming, because you're attending this presentation, that this is you or someone like you. This is a person who needs to have some kind of vision, even if it's just taking shape, of what a future data quality program should look like. You need to have the team building and encouraging characteristics that allow you to motivate and work with groups. You need familiarity with the data set. You don't have to be the living and breathing greatest expert in the data set, but you need to have a good understanding of the data set. And of course, project management experience, because you're going to be pushing for results and you're going to be working with people to meet your self-imposed deadlines. You're going to need at least one subject matter expert, depending on the criticality of the data. If it's something that is used by multiple business lines, you'll probably want at least part-time, multiple SMEs who know the data well. They represent the producers and consumers. They know the data very well. They use it all the time. They're probably aware of any major known issues or problems, quality problems with data. They might not necessarily be in a formally recognized data stewardship group, but your job is to find them, whether they are or not, and somebody with some enthusiasm. So these are the characteristics you want on your team. And then you're going to need a data quality tool expert. So if you already have a quality tool, somebody who's quite familiar with it and has facility with it, who knows what you need, which is to try to improve the data's condition. And also they need to be an experienced developer, because they need to be able to write custom queries. There's going to be several layers of this effort. So you can't just use the tool out of the box. You kind of need to have an idea that you can write queries. And then the supporting cast will be the maintenance project team for the data store or stores from which you will get your data set. So they need to allow you to grab the data, a snapshot of the data. And you can see at the bottom there, a small team means fewer delays. So you can go around the horn. Should we do this? Should we do that? Should we include this data element? Should we include that data element? And the smaller your team, the quicker your decision process. So that's who should be on it. And now we are ready. You're approved. Your team is ready. You're enthusiastic. And now we're going to go step by step. Okay. So what are the questions? We're going to talk about these questions because it's not only you, the leader, but also the SMEs that are going to answer this question, because we're going to produce these mini work products. So you have to do the thinking and then produce the very brief work product. So the first work product on the right is, what are the goals and objectives of doing this? So you probably had a type of a business case that you presented to your sponsor. So now you're going to specify the goals. Here are the goals. This is a proof of concept meant to achieve these goals. And also you'll mention the long-term benefits of the effort. So these questions, why are you doing it? What is the business problem or problems that you're trying to address through this effort? And then the next question, number 3, goes over to the right, defining the scope. How and why we selected this scope. So why did you select this domain? It might just be because this was the friendliest business sponsor, but you need to come up with a nice justifiable rationale why you just chose this domain, and why this specific data set within the domain. You will say 5 and 6, you'll answer that question. Who are the producers of the data in the data set? Who are the primary consumers of the data in the data set? And then you're going to decide, going back over to the right, do we have problems that are known in this data set? And the chances are you'll have at least 1 or 2 problems that you already know about. Then you're going to define that data set. What are the actual list of attributes that we're going to profile? And if you are doing it from number 7, more than one data source, then you'll say, it'll be attributes 1 through 10 in this data source, and attributes A through L in this data source. And you will mention how you're going to join them. And then what platform we're going to use is basically what tool we're going to use and where are we going to put the snapshot, right? So then you've defined this scenario. Here's my sources, here's my platform, here's my producers and consumers. So you're approaching this like a German apprenticeship where, they're kind of, the joke is, first you learn to hold the nail, then you learn to pick up the hammer, then you take the hammer and hit the nail, and, inch by inch. So the reason you're going through all these questions with your team and you're documenting these little mini work products is because you always have that future reuse in mind. Okay, next thing is you will document what you did for coming up with the team and the working group. So these are the roles. You probably have a racy idea about who's accountable and responsible. Who are the team members representing the business units, the team members representing the data stores. And when you turned that mini work product into a template, it would have charts to be able to capture this for any project. For your project, you're going to write it down for you. What are the team members doing on the project, and the estimated time commitment of the team and the working group. You want to time box this effort. I'll talk more about that in a minute. So the questions are that you need to answer. What are the roles and skill requirements to do this? And we already kind of talked about the positions on the team. Who leads the group? What criteria do we use to select the members? So these are the questions that will lead you to your decisions. What's the expected level of effort per role? And then we have to ask, at what level are the results going to be reviewed and approved? Which takes us over to number 2, the review and approval process. So once you have written your business case, your team is assembled, you're going to find out who your approvers are going to be. Who's going to review our results and make decisions about the results from the profiling? So you've got the data store owner, you have managers that you need to ask time for those team members on your project. You have governance bodies that are interested in looking at your results and may have input to you. And of course, the application owner of the snapshot or snapshots that you took. And then you'll say, okay, what are the milestones we're going to have? When do we need to approve them? And when do we review them and look for feedback and input? Okay. Next is engaging with the business. So do we know already what these issues are? We mentioned that. Do they have already? They may not, but do they have targets for how good they want the condition of the data to be, data element by data element? Do they have thresholds? How much problems can they tolerate, data element by data element? They may not have that, but you're going to question them for it. And also you're going to explore known issues, beat the bushes for known issues. We have duplicates, we have missing status codes, we have dates in the incorrect format, we have whatever the issues may be. Now, are there other business rules that you want to check while you're doing this profiling? Do we have existing quality rules that are controls on the condition of the data? And then you're going to find out, do you need joins? Exactly on what IDs and data sets will be joined? How will the business staff set their thresholds and targets if they haven't done it? When will you engage the data SMEs and the stewards in the effort? And then do you have a predefined standards for data quality dimensions? Many organizations do not. So this is your chance to come up with the dimensions that are going to be important to you. And it may be, completeness and accuracy. You don't have to use every dimension that's ever been defined. So over on the right, you're going to document this. These were our requirements. And again, if available, these were the targets and thresholds that we found out about for these data elements. These are the dimensions we're going to use. These are known issues we've identified. And if there's any special business rules, like the status cannot be both active and you have a death date, just something like that. If there's really priority business rules, you might as well check while you're there, you would list them. And then you're going to list the technical requirements. So how many records are in this snapshot? Do I have 20 million of them, in which case I'm going to need to sample? Or do I only have 10,000? No problem. So you're going to make that judgment. Do you have the tool set ready? Do you have the developer ready? And have you then gone about getting the snapshot data? Typically, just in general terms, it's at the end of the day, when it's not going to interfere with production. It's when you take a snapshot. You don't want to do it real time. So then you have the dimensions, you have the guidelines on how you're going to apply them, and then you have an order of operations. Simple, out of the box, to complex. some detailed business rules. And in the middle is checking quality rules. Syntax, semantic, and content are terms that are used, where syntax is one column, semantic is column to column comparisons, and context is row to row comparisons. You want to stay away from the latter one and only do a little bit of the one before that. So the quality tool set, you're going to pick the tool set or you're going to get one. And if you're smart and you don't have one now, you will ask a vendor, can I do a proof of concept for 2 weeks with your tool? So anyway, you're going to get the tool set ready, you're going to get the snapshot, and you've documented what you've done. Next, you're going to do the profiling effort. So typically you go from the simple to the complex. So we're going to start by doing out-of-the-box checks. And if you've used data quality tools, you know that they are all extraordinary. And in terms of selecting data quality tool, what I always tell my customers is just pick one that's in, the good Gartner quadrant, because they've all been developed for 30 years or more. They all do everything. It's a matter of how compatible is it with your technology stack? Is it by a vendor that you already have contracts with? It's more practical decisions on which one to choose. And the only difference might be the user interface. They also all allow you to buy data sets so that you can standardize addresses within one country or in multiple countries across the globe. They allow you to do householding, where Joe and Mary are the same family, the different Amazon accounts, etc. And they allow you to add things like geocodes, or in the US, congressional districts, or in Canada, provinces. So many, many, many things you can add to these tools. So there's no point just doing queries alone when you can have all this built-in functionality and expandability. Anyway, if you go out of the box, it does everything. It does min-max range, it does formats, it does values out of range. So you get a wealth of information just pushing the button on the tool. So you're going to get some defects and possible defects, anomalies right off the bat. And it will also give you clues to what you have to explore. One time I did a pilot, and we found that there were social security numbers of pension beneficiaries in the address fields, which was a serious management control issue. So obviously that was among the defects we found. That was a top priority to fix instantly. They did a data fix. So you're going to find all kinds of things you're not expecting if the data store has been around for a while. Anyway, you're going to then look at identifiers, look for duplicates, referential integrity, and any kind of anomalies with the keys. Then you can look for known issues, specific ones that you found out about, and any business rules that you want to check while you're there. Are they operating the way they're supposed to? And then if you already have this capability, you can say, let's standardize the addresses. So we did this for one of the customers, and it came back that they only had like 500,000 addresses with 9-digit zip codes. And after the trial standardization and augmentation was performed, they had 1.5 million with 9-digit zip codes, which takes you to the precise location. So it's really good stuff that the tools have. All right, so you've executed the pilot. There may be a variable duration in this. If you pick your data set carefully, it's not too big. You can do this. You can actually execute it and then do the next layers of complexity in a week or less. So that's pretty good, right? But if there are serious issues that arose, or there's some complex things you want to trace, you may extend that time, for a few more days or even another week to check it thoroughly. So on the left, you see questions that affect the stage of the project. So how are you going to summarize the results? Because you're going to get the details, in the tool reports. How are you going to summarize it? Have you shared these results as you found them with your business needs? So that should be a collaborative effort. Do you have to repeat any of the steps again? let's say you decide, oh my gosh, this is deeper than I thought. I need to go to a third source for this small data set because I think that there may be even more complexities than I thought. So if you need to repeat a step or change the data set, that's when you do that. Have you identified some candidate rules? So by the time you develop defects, it's occurring to you that if I had a rule that only these values were allowed, I could use a database constraint and I never get the A or the Z that are outliers, whatever it may be. So the business should, you've got the detail to justify how you're summarizing it. So you're going to summarize the results. We found a lot of duplicates in this data set. We found this and that and the other. So high level summary, and this may allow the business to do a bunch of things. It may allow them to update their documentation. Like we did this once for market data, and we found that there was a new trade type introduced for trade transactions, stock trade transactions, and it wasn't in the documentation. So it appeared like an error, but then when we researched it with the stock market, we found, no, this is a new trade type that we developed for these special circumstances. So you might want to update the metadata. Of course, it's going to lead you to specify additional quality rules. It may point to improvements in the business process as well, business process or business process handoffs among different processes that touch this data. And also updates to procedures, like about how the data is acquired or how the data is hand entered. So there's a whole lot that can come out of this. All right, and then you're going to say, you're going to think about how you did it and document lessons learned. We should have done a smaller data set is a frequent one. We should have not done so many joins because it increased the duration of what we were looking at. We should have checked fewer business rules. Whatever your lessons are, you're going to document them. And then you will have the results and you will get them approved. So this is basically thoroughly considering and documenting what you've discovered. And then you're going to do the report. So the questions that you're going to think, you've done a lot of analysis within your team. So now over there on the left, you're going to say, okay, have I prioritized the highest impact things to tell the business about and the business sponsor? Have I got a clue on how they should be fixed or remediated? Is it a matter of a physical data fix, like in the case of those social security numbers? Is it a matter of adding a control? So you're going to do at least a high level consideration of how you should fix the problems. And then you should classify the business and technical impacts of doing these changes, just like you would if you were doing a risk remediation strategy. It's not going to take you all day, you know, so the business impacts of the social security numbers that would end up in an address field on a communication, that could be, you know, privacy violation and lawsuits, high impact, right? Some of the impacts won't be that high. It's not going to affect the end user. It's not going to affect the external customer. So it's up to you and your team to come up with a draft scheme for how am I going to say what's a severe business impact and how am I going to estimate what it's going to take to fix this on the technical side. So this is really informing your business sponsor and your end customer. So then you want to work with the business. What kind of suggestions do we have, right? So over on the right, your audit report, you're going to develop the report and whatever recommendations you've come up with. So you summarize the results, highlight the issues by priority and business impact, and then you'll have various types of recommendations. Because you're going to say, well, we could prepare this data by doing a data fix, or we can go to the, we can put rules or procedures or database constraints in the destination data store to correct this problem so it doesn't get in that data store again. Or we can solve the problem by going to the data source, the original place where the data is created, by doing our root cause analysis, we know that we have to fix it in the master data hub. You know, a good example of that is Federal Reserve has a master data hub for all of the regulated entities. And if between the time of the last reports submitted and the new regulatory reports of various kinds that are submitted, if they have a subsidiary and the subsidiary is submitting the report and they are not in the master data store, the report is rejected and they are required to go through a procedure to get themselves entered into the master data store, so that maintains precise control over those regulated entities and what they submit and how you trace it to them. So that's an example of solving the problem, right? You can't give me the report that I required you to give me unless you're fixed. So, all right, so you're looking at number 5 now. Okay, now that we've done this work, and we've really engaged our brains and we've come up with some good approaches to fix this stuff, do I have a business case for a permanent solution? Like, can I come up with an overall business case? So you're going to develop a briefing for your key stakeholders. This is what we did very briefly. Here's the highlights of our report. Here are our recommendations. And then you want to point out any tangible benefits, quick wins, and suggest who or what organizational unit should be responsible for what, right? So this gives you a very high value report out of this brief effort. Okay, and then the next step, which you're going to advocate to do, is let's come up with some quality metrics for this data store, this data set. Let's come up with what are the goals of the metrics about what we've done and about this data set. What are the objectives we're trying to attain? We want 0 duplicates, or whatever the objectives are. We're going to define these metrics so that we can find out if we are achieving the objectives. How are we going to collect them? How are we going to calculate them? How are we going to analyze them? And how are we going to display them or communicate them? So this is setting you up for number 2 on the right, monitoring. And if you remember Larry English or any of his wonderful works, and he was one of our seminal thinkers of the century in data quality, monitoring was the last step. And then I guess there was there was an ultimate step, which was certification of quality. But monitoring is the way you make sure the data stays good. So metrics are a means to do effective monitoring. So what metrics do we need? How are we going to get them? How are we going to report them? And then you go back over to 2 after question 4, how frequently you're going to collect them, how you're going to report them, how you're going to review them and update them with the business. And, you know, are you going to do something spiffy that many of the data quality tools allow you to do? Am I going to have a dashboard of quality in this data set that I can keep updating? And you can see the progress in better and better conditioning data. So that's it. So you've done an enormous amount of work, but it hasn't been that much time. You've worked your brain, you've come up with every little step and every little consideration, and you've documented it for yourselves so that you have a complete record of what you've accomplished. But also, now we're going to say, what did we learn? So here's what your team has learned. Think about this. You now know how to develop the rationale and the scope for a data quality audit, a profiling project. You know how to go about gaining approval for it. You know how to assemble an appropriate team to get it done. You know that you're going to seek for business-driven targets and thresholds. You know that you're going to apply quality rules, and you're going to be able to define some quality rules as an outcome of this. You're going to know who owns the data, because you may have to do a root cause analysis back to the source of this data set. So you're going to explore data ownership indirectly. You're going to be refining the consumer requirements for quality. You're going to have a tool set in mind that you're going to conduct this audit. You will be able to test drive multiple layers of data profiling techniques. So you, your team, and your developer are getting smarter on how to do a big exploration of data quality. You're going to analyze the results with the business, strengthening your partnership with them. You will jointly develop recommendations for the improvements. You've learned how to do that. You have had to think about the business and technical impacts of spending money on data quality by fixing it or preventing it. You can choose to create a quality rules repository for shared data, which I highly recommend. You can start it with the little rules you came up with in this limited scope pilot. Wherever this shared data occurs, these quality rules are valid to apply to it. You're going to be developing criteria for broader application of the same type of project in different data sets and domains. You'll be able to distill the impact of improvements in a concise briefing to do your internal sales and make your case. And you'll get exercise on developing quality measures and metrics. So a lot of learning through doing these steps. Now, for the data quality workbook, what are you going to create? You have a business case for quality efforts. It's got these things in it. You have a role definition and approval process for the data quality improvements. You will have a project plan that you've developed. The mini work products will have these things in it that can be abstracted and reused. You have a data quality assessment process, the basis for that. You have a profiling or quality audit report template because you've gone through the little steps and thought about everything. You have a briefing template. You have a good sample of the approach to metrics and quality monitoring. And you have at least a few rules as part of your shared data quality rules repository. So lots and lots of sample work products that can be abstracted and reused to the benefit of everyone. All right, let me see. I know I've been talking. I'll take a couple more minutes to go through this next part, and then we will have the remainder of our time for questions. So the workbook, how you promote and mentor and leverage this, how you should work with your allies, and getting to the data quality strategy. So you want to compile your output and you want to promote the value of your output. So you created all those mini deliverables, and you want to make sure that it's clean. You know, it just that the spell check is done, that it's nicely organized. And each of those mini work products can be very brief and very short. You're going to put them in a centralized location, compile them into the data quality workbook. Now you're going to take the trumpets out and blow the trumpets. We've got a data quality workbook, and it can help you and you and you and you. And we've done all the hard work for you by thinking it through and demonstrating it. So then what you'd like is you want your executive sponsor who's so happy with the work you've done and the fact that the data quality has improved and what you discovered, that they're going to talk to their peers. So they can do lots of things for you. They can send out an email to their peers saying this was a great effort and we got this out of it. They can talk about it in their board meeting or executive meeting, and you want them to trumpet your accomplishment. Also, you want to talk about what you did through every communications channel available to you. So awareness of this, founded project that you did. And if you have the opportunity, you're going to deliver an executive presentation on, this is what we did, this is our value, here's how we can leverage this. And wouldn't it be nice if we went on to products next from customer, that type of thing. So you can kind of work your way to get more and more adoption. And if you have the time and the ability to mentor another team who wants to use your method, you can do that. Then you want to work with your natural allies in the organization. So this may include definitely includes the data governance groups. It may include the business architecture group if you have it. It would certainly include enterprise architecture if you have it. It would certainly include listening ears in the information technology organization. You can basically say, these are the work products I did. We are using this new tool. Thank you so much for supporting it. Or you can say, we bought this new tool. Wouldn't you like to be able to do this for your maintenance and enhancement customers? So you can work with those allies to kind of get a groundswell of interest in this. And then you want to look at another thing you want to do is what major projects are coming about. For example, one multinational is doing a data management assessment of everything about its master data stores. Well, master data is a perfect example of a place to do a quality audit as part of that analysis and assessment, right? So you will find that there'll be similar efforts, initiatives, or projects where you could say, hey, we've got this wonderful thing. Would you like to add a couple of weeks to your project budget and schedule so you can get all these benefits? So anyway, then this is basically your critical mass for fanning the flames, blowing the embers of an organization-wide commitment. And you'll know when this is. And if you've done your informal socialization, communication, and bragging into the right audiences, then you will be able to make a pitch for doing this organization-wide and taking a broader view. Now, the data quality strategy is going to be a shared vision for the data assets that commits to quality as part of the program that will always be there and is going to be permanently supported. So you're going to have a sustainable program focused on delivering quality data for business decisions and analytics. You will be increasing the responsibility level, yes, but also the knowledge and the confidence of your data stewards and SMEs. You'll help with data sharing. If you are a regulated industry, you will satisfy your regulators at what the work you're doing. And the executives can turn complaints about the data into action. There is a presentation, head in the clouds, feet on the ground, that I did at Enterprise Data World in 2019 about how to develop a data quality strategy. And it's my next e-learning course. So what you're doing is you're taking your founded project and you're turning it into a success path and a sales path to develop the interest and justification for a formal data quality program in your organization. So a quick peek of what's in strategy very quickly, and you will get a copy of these slides as a PDF. So we have the vision, the goals, and now we're looking organization-wide if we're doing quality strategy. What are our key domains? Where are we focusing our effort? What are we going to get out of it? How do we know the quality program is succeeding? What kind of policies, processes, and standards are we going to develop? What technologies will we use? Who is involved? What are their roles? What does governance do? What kind of education are we going to offer? Who will be trained and when? So all of that is in strategy. And then there is a sequence plan. And I'm not going to go into this in detail, but you'll see we have a row of capabilities. This is an oversimplified sequence plans, just so you can see what you would be wanting to think about. These are the capabilities I'm going to put in place. First, I got to do profiling so I can do this pilot project and other things. Then what are the domains or subject areas I'm going to concentrate on? Well, I really have a lot of customer systems, so I'm going to do that. In the first year, I'm really going to concentrate on quality in the customer area. Then I'm going to move to product, then location, or whatever it might be. What is the IT support? What's IT going to do? So they're going to help you with the tool selection. They are going to provide you with an interested and skilled developer to do these pilots or other audits. They're going to help you come up with a deeper and broader customer profile, because customer is the domain of choice. And then what is the organization going to commit to? got to have at least one person as the data quality lead to start this path. Then we probably want to have a working group, and then we probably will eventually have more data quality staff. And then you'll see in year 3, we might want a data quality services organization, like a center of excellence, as we develop a broader program. And then for training, it's going to be tools and methods and concepts, how to develop quality rules, how to decide whether rules should be applied, lots of details, dimension training, and then of course, eventually, you want all of these processes in the systems development lifecycle, because IT holds up half the sky. So you want them to profile data, let's say when they're migrating from a custom application to a vendor platform, when they're consolidating 2 data stores. So you want IT to take a lot of responsibility over time for making sure that the quality is built in. Okay, that's it. So if we've succeeded in all of that, we now have a quality culture. We go from samsara at the bottom to enlightenment at the top. Everybody is on board. People complain less about the data. The analytics teams are delighted that we finally made their job easier. The knowledge workers and SMEs can make better decisions. The business lines know that they have to step up and come up with the dimensional analysis, targets and thresholds, step up into your responsibilities. You own the data, so let's step up and take some responsibility. The shared data repositories, because you've improved quality in all the shared data areas, become reliable. If you did a data management assessment against the DMM or the DCAM, you would have a very high score because you would put in place this program, and you would have bootstrapped your way into very powerful quality improvements. And that ends my presentation. You can get the head in the clouds, feet on the ground for the companion presentation about the data quality strategy. There's my website, bullet 2. And I just want to say like one sentence each about these courses. Data management maturity is a 7-minute professionally produced and narrated course on what is data management maturity and how to get there. And that one is currently oriented around the DMM. And now that I'm learning the DCAM, I may do another version with some of the content aligned to the DCAM. The data stewardship e-learning course is meant to be given to everybody in your organization who works with data. Started in Arizona, it's been given to thousands of people. My first client has 100,000 staff, and they're going to give it to thousands of people because it basically concentrates on the stewardship tasks, how to define a business term, how to define a quality rule, all of the practical stuff that everybody who's pulled into a data working group or is a data steward needs to be confident about. There's one on data provider management, soup to nuts, deciding what data you need, finding it internally, externally, working with contracts, working with procurement, working with SLAs, vendor communication, consolidating external data sources, and a lot of stuff that everybody needs, but they don't know they need it. That's the data stewardship course is a little over 2 hours. The data provider management course is 66 minutes, and the new one will be about 50 minutes based on this presentation with a template handout with it. So if you have any questions about any of this content, feel free to email me. I'd love it if you connected with me on LinkedIn. And thank you very much for the opportunity to present today.
Hey, Melanie, thank you so much. I'm wondering if you would be interested in answering one question before we call it for the day.
Sure.
There's a question in chat that says, if your candidate pilot is a master data domain / data set, can the DQ pilot also be your MDM pilot? Have you experienced this before?
Yes, if the master data set is small. Back in the day when we would go to master data management conferences, they would say, start with 25 attributes for customer, and start with maybe 50 attributes for product, and then gradually extend it. So keeping the master data lean and mean is kind of a principle of master data management. So if the data set is relatively small, then yes, it doubles as that. So then you get a double win.
Excellent. Thank you so much for answering that question. I think we are at time, despite I think I have questions, and I'm sure people in chat will also have more questions, but I know you've shared ways to follow up with you, which we really appreciate. And just the whole presentation in general. Thank you so much. I think I've learned a lot today. I think everyone else has. And yeah, thank you.
If whoever has the questions in the chat would like to compile them and email them to me, I'll answer them.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. We'll see if there are more questions. If they come in, we'll let you know. And I'm sure people will be thinking about this for a while yet. So there will definitely